It's better to foster respect instead of fear and pain.
Cause a good school equals a better life.
Raising voices.
The Ministry of Health informs the public that there are confirmed cases of Ebola in Uganda. We, however, urge the public not to panic as the situation is being managed. The Ministry of Health further reminds the public to be on the lookout for any persons who may show signs and symptoms of Ebola. These include high body temperature, abdominal pains, diarrhea, vomiting, bleeding from the body openings such as the nose, eyes, and mouth. Please inform the nearest health worker immediately if you see anyone with these signs and symptoms. To prevent Ebola from spreading further, please take the following preventive measures: regular washing of hands with water and soap, avoid handshaking and hugging, avoiding any contact with any suspected Ebola patients. Any person who dies suddenly should not be buried but reported to the nearest health worker or LC1 immediately. For further information, please call the Ministry of Health toll-free number on 0800 100 066 or send a free SMS to your report on 8500. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and World Health Organization.
Welcome to English in a Minute. It's no surprise that cats like to sleep. A nap is a short period of sleep.
There you are. The movie is about to start.
I'm sorry. I got up at 5 this morning to go swimming, and then I helped a friend move some furniture.
Are you sure you aren't too tired for this movie?
No. I took a cat nap. As long as this movie isn't boring, I'll be fine. What are we seeing anyway?
The Long Dark Winter. It's a 3-hour foreign movie. I hope you like subtitles.
A cat nap is just a short amount of light sleep during the day. This expression became popular in the 1820s. The person who first used it probably lived with a lot of cats and noticed just how much they sleep. And that's English in a Minute.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello?
Hello?
This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions, and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number, and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera. Refrain from unnecessary engagement with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
I remember the lockdown, when the streets were empty and our lives disrupted, when businesses closed and our livelihoods hung in the balance. Hospitals were full. We lost loved ones, jobs, and hope. Our children couldn't study anymore. We cannot let this happen again. We should not go back. Get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and join the millions of Ugandans who are already vaccinated.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
It's just 10 minutes past 9 a.m. Thank you so much for watching UBC TV Inspiring Uganda. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Extra. My name is Sharon Chomdisha. It is a beautiful Monday, not cold like the weekend. I hope you had a great one as well. And I pray that whatever you put your hands to today is blessed and increases in great measures. Now today on our show, unlike the Western culture, African culture actually dictates that when our parents or relatives get into their old age, we tend to take care of them, the younger generation. Now with this unwritten value, the younger generation usually takes care of them until death comes into the picture. It goes without notice that in their old age, our parents, our relatives, and while they become older, they start to lose sight, they need more support, they actually become more and more vulnerable. In Uganda, the culture or practice hasn't been that there's so many elderly homes or homes that sort of take care of people that have suffered from strokes. Unlike today, we have so many of those homes actually mushrooming. And today we get to talk to a few people who are from one of these homes, Jolly Stroke Center, an elderly care home, to understand that is this something that we're adopting from the Western culture? Does it actually help? Is it actually working for Ugandans? Do we have those statistics that justify the mushrooming of these homes? And does it really, really work? So if you want to be a part of the conversation, please make sure that you write to us on our social media platforms. That's on Twitter at UBC TV. You can as well follow me, Sharon Chomgish _2, and you can always leave us a comment. Please be a part of the conversation. A very good morning. Thank you so much for coming through and for at least coming through to help us understand elderly homes and the homes that sort of take care of people who have suffered from strokes. Starting off, why this idea? Why even a part of this?
Thank you very much, Sharon.
And you can introduce yourself, yes.
Absolutely. And to our dear viewers, good morning. Ignatius Asasira is my name. I'm a doctor I graduate from Makerere University. And I can allow my neighbor to first introduce himself, and then we dive into the discussion. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for hosting us, Sharon and UBC.
Dr. Mwesigwa.
Yes, good morning to our dear viewers. I'm called Mwesigwa Gideon, and I'm a physiotherapist. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Going back to the question, why are we even having a discussion today about elderly homes?
Okay, thank you. And to emphasize on that particular question, it's a common neglected sector in our country and in our society as a developing country, Uganda, that elderly care is not part of us. I mean, you'll find 75% of our population is actually less than 35 years. And that means there is a bigger population that is not part of the young people. But when you look at the current trends, we say that the elderly are people above 60 years, as per Uganda's definition. And those account about 2.7%, which is a small percentage. Yes. And some people may say it's negligible, we can do without it, but it's actually not negligible. Because very soon we are all going to be elderly after here. We have our mothers, our fathers, grandparents who we need to give the best of care. And according to recent research, it shows that the life expectancy of Ugandans has actually increased. A study was done from 1994 to 2014, and it showed that for the men, the life expectancy increased from 47.2 to 60.2, whereas for females, it rose from 48.5 to 64.3. And that means that we are going to have people live longer.
Yes, yes.
So where does our healthcare system place those who are above 60 if all of us pay only attention to the younger generation? So these senior citizens, as we call them, need our attention. They need our care. So we came up with this ideology and belief that we need to give them time and attention. We need to dive into the discussion of how best can they benefit. So just to help you understand why this idea of Jolly Stroke Center, where I work as Ignatius, one of our colleagues who is our founder, the mom got a stroke That's about 4 years ago. And we moved around the entire Kampala to look for a place where, aside the hospital, because sometimes hospital charges are really alarming, you need to stay at home before you come for the reviews. So we looked for a place where our senior citizen can find help, can be supported emotionally, have someone to guide their diet. But there was barely any elderly home in Kampala. And if Kampala doesn't have, I don't know what about our viewers in Kabale, where I'm born and raised. What will happen to my Jaja when she hits 80 and, you know, she gets a stroke? So fast forward, we were able to get some help from doctors in Mulago. But when that whole crisis ended, may her soul rest in peace, she was able to, she lost a battle. But we thought it necessary for us to start up a home, a rehabilitation home, as a social corporate responsibility of doctors and responsible Ugandans. We thought it deemed it necessary for us to gather up these specialists with the different skills they have a home where people can come when they have conditions. We shall later talk about the services we offer. But really the genesis was more of a personal
encounter.
Yes.
It happened home, so you decided that now it has happened, let us see what we can do for all the others. Might.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're so sorry that she got to, she lost her mother. In the African culture, usually, actually, there's so much pressure on the younger children or the younger generation. If I have a mom and dad and grandparents, I am sort of expected that once I'm done with school, I need to start taking care of them. It's an unwritten rule, really, but it's sort of there, and that's tradition. And this has gone on for so many years. While I'm even saving and taking care of myself, I am in charge of this whole family and my family's family. In the Western culture, you realize that parents are saving up for themselves. They actually never want to pass on that burden onto their children. Now, when you talk about a home, it just sort of seems like it's far-fetched. What is that home going to offer that I can't do at home for my mother or my grandmother or my father or someone that is within my family? Dr. Mwesigwa.
Yes. Talking about the home, studies have shown that treatment at home is always the best. But the challenge comes in that our homes are not built with the capacities to solve these people. You find that maybe they're smaller, maybe you have so many people there, there's too much noise, and these people are going to feel a little bit isolated. Maybe they're located far from those people who are going to help them, maybe physios, and it's also hectic to make them travel each and every day to go to those receive those services. So we decided to put up a home, and we call it a home because we didn't want to look like a hospital. We wanted to provide another home within another person's home, so that someone could come and find comfort, and they will still get that very experience that they have at home. I don't know. Another thing which we thought about these homes, that people these days are a little bit quite busy. It's not that they won't be there to give them the exact attention they need, the monitoring of the patient, and also these people will feel isolated.
So does that mean that actually anyone that crosses to 60 years, because that's the mark for being elderly in Uganda, they are vulnerable?
Yes.
Actually, to answer that one, old age is a very big risk factor for so many medical conditions. And like you said, when you stay in our usual homes where we are grown up from, where we are raised, there is a high likelihood that with the current trends of people being so busy with work, little attention is being given to these elderlies. So when they hit 60, 70, we thought it really necessary for us to create a home away from home where they can come and still get the best of care as though they were in their homes. That's why we have specialized services, the specialists in their different fields. If it is nutrition and diet, we have a dietitian on board. If it is physiotherapy, we have Gideon and his team on board. If it is counseling, because when you're at home, there are some conditions which you battle with your younger grandchildren and your children, which if you stayed with fellow elderly, you easily connect. It's not like you're not attached to your children, but what excites a 70-year-old is different from what excites a 30-year-old, a 20-year-old. So we thought it necessary for them to celebrate their adult age together in this new home, but alongside battling the different conditions that they have been diagnosed with, like stroke, dementia. Some of them are hypertensive, or even diabetics. Some of them have gotten chronic neurological diseases. Those are diseases that affect the brain and the spinal cord. For example, a spinal cord injury or an accident, a major accident. So as this person is recovering, we thought it necessary for them to be in an exciting environment, because we have a number of activities we do. So that's why we really thought it important that elderlies need to be given more attention than what. And it's not just about the Western culture, Sharon. I think it's high time Ugandans out there listening learn to appreciate that the elderlies are really a very important resource to our country, because they are the people who are going to mentor the next generation. So if their health is not preserved, there's a higher likelihood that we shall lose them faster than they would have stayed. Yes.
What has been the reaction from society when it comes to these homes? Is there actually acceptance? Because one thing is, the hardest thing I think is change, but also adaptation, where you might even be told all the benefits and you actually know, my daughter might be busy, so I won't have all the attention, but because I'm going to the home, I'll get everything that I need. What has been, and you still refuse to actually take it on because you just feel like it's a waste of money or a waste of time. So what has been the reaction from society and from, people, elderly people actually?
Yes. There is something that may seem a little bit simple, but it's a very big issue for the elderly. One is the discomfort in being an in-law's home. Some of you may not take it as a serious issue, but I remember sharing one of the clients, and she was like, I was not comfortable being at their home. And you can't say it because it's a person who's taking care of you. So that kills them inside. It even makes them stressed. They get more depressed and even worsens the condition. So for some of the elderly that came were very excited about the opportunity. And also some were perceiving their presence at home as a burden to the family. They would see like as if they are over pushing the family, they are spoiling the family's joy. You can't have a party when mom is in pain. You can't have a party when dad is suffering. So some perceived the home as a very good experience. The interaction with several elderly at the home was also a very good thing for them. They're able to share experience and even help each other go through the pain that they're having. You find one with stroke, talking to another with stroke, that this is how I survived, this is how I came up and I'm getting better. And that gives them purpose and also the willingness to fight. Maybe another thing that we should know about rehab, the patient plays a very big role in the healing.
Yes.
So when you meet fellow who are going through the same thing, you are pushed to work harder because the patient is one who's working. Once we do the guiding, they have to push themselves to work. Something that you will not get when you are seeing someone at home, because all you see is your therapist. That is all. Yes, maybe my colleague can add on to something.
Yeah, the uptake is actually not very good from what we are seeing. People are still stuck in the system you described, where the young ones should take care of their aged parents from their homes. But I think it's high time we really learn to appreciate the lore of geriatric medicine. It's called geriatrics. Taking care of the elderly. It's really an important aspect, and all of you are there busy saving with NSSF, planning for retirement. So what's your plan when you fall sick, God forbid, and you didn't get this information when you are 20, 30, 40, that at 60 there are some conditions that will come, not as a disease, by the way. Aging is a normal process,
Yes.
all of us.
And the complications that come with
exactly, the complications.
Yes. Okay. Now, one of the things as well that usually comes up with these initiatives, very beautiful initiatives, because first of all, it's one of those things that is not really happening in the country, so there's adaptation, there's coping up with the change. Money becomes a big issue. And one of the things that you hear even for physiotherapy, I know someone who was spending a lot of money because of physiotherapy. And yes, thankfully they got better, but remember it's like almost a daily thing. And now you talk about diets, you talk about specifications of what that treatment looks like in the home. And it's really very beautiful because you can even hear recovery when you talk about all the things that you guys do at the home. But the expenses.
Well,
please talk about money.
I was speaking to one of the clients. She brought her patient. The patient was 96 years old. And she was like, I know this is expensive, but she said that all I want is her to have the best life, the best quality of life. She said, what's the point of me spending a lot of money on her funeral, and yet I've left her to live like this? Maybe if it's time for her to go, at least let her enjoy her last days. So these people do deserve this kind of life. It could be a little bit expensive, but it's actually the best word is it's affordable based on what we give and what they deserve to get. It doesn't make sense putting all that money in a funeral. You spend millions, you invite several people, but yet they died in a very sad state. I'm not saying that they're going to die, but yes, it's worth it. It's totally worth it to see them happy.
Yeah, and Shalon, the other good news is that at the center, the costs are actually very friendly because we understand, yes, the economy is tight, and there's a concept in palliative care, which is one of the things we offer at the center, where we say that we want to add life to days rather than adding days to life. It's not about just staying and waiting for someone to die with this chronic debilitating condition, but we want people to enjoy their last days or their last years while they are living. So the truth of the matter is that healthcare is never cheap. Yeah. Even if it was for a 30-year-old who got a stroke, it's never cheap. Healthcare is never cheap, and I keep talking about the amount of money you spend when you're training a doctor. My God, it's a lot. So sometimes it's worth it. Of course, we also don't want to go to the extreme of costing Ugandans a lot, but I wish to urge everyone to appreciate the quality of the services. To me, it's really more about what are you offering, because people are spending money on, I don't want to call them useless, but less demanding. Of course, to them they are important, but to me, my elderly dad would mean a lot to me.
On average, how much can someone spend for that home? Because
we have accommodation. Accommodation will be paying 50,000 per day. We have charges to the different specialists.
50,000 per day is 1.5 a month. Okay.
But you're not going to stay for an entire month.
What about those? So does that mean that actually you keep on, it's not rotational, but people sort of, once someone is okay, they can always go back home?
Exactly. You know, let's imagine someone has gotten a stroke, and they need to go back to Mulago or to this hospital for review after 3 weeks.
Yes.
So in those 3 weeks period, we are saying, come at this home. Let us offer additional services as we also work with the doctors, something called continuity of care. Come and spend these 3 weeks with us as we also wait to see how the progress is. So the service is actually very affordable at Jolly Stroke Center, and that's why I encourage everyone out there watching. If you have a condition there and you're battling with an elderly or even a young person, who has any of these conditions, bring them on.
Are meals also charged separately?
Yes, meals are charged separately. That's only 20,000 Ugandan shillings. Yeah, which is really affordable.
Okay, and then if physiotherapy is inclusive?
That's 30 for it.
30,000 per day.
Maybe an advantage of a home, or maybe where you would see the value of it, is that, maybe I should start by telling you that the elderly are a little bit different. They do have modes. They do have times where they're active and times they're not active. So it will be quite hard for someone to come at 5 in the evening when the mama is active, or quite early in the morning when they're not active. So here we're able to see them, we study them, we know when they are most active, we take advantage of their strengths, and then we look for a way of minimizing their weaknesses. How best can we involve mom? And we also see them every day. It looks quite expensive, but if you're to look at it, you hiring one to come home, trust me, it's quite expensive and you're getting less. So it's very, very affordable, that's what I can say. In terms of maybe, if you're hiring maybe a physician to come, you would have to pay transport, you have to pay an extra fee, then get a dietitian. Here you get all the services at a lesser service, so it's very affordable. And if you go around comparing, even in the UK, or other places, maybe that side you'd find that maybe there's a little bit of assistance with the government, and that's why it looks a little bit cheaper. But this time around, it's very affordable, that's what I can say.
Okay, because when I total up everything, it sort of comes to about 3 million per month. That's with the food, with physiotherapy, if they're going to spend a month at the home. Beautiful that you put life before even amounts of money, because life is more valuable. What are some of the health concerns that actually call for action, or for someone to be able to move into a health facility and stroke home?
There is a concept that I had earlier talked about called geriatrics. Excuse me. And there are a number of symptoms or syndromes that come up when someone is aging, which sometimes call for an alarm to say we need support. And the common one being persistent pain. Most of these adults will complain of back pain, bone pain, different parts of the body are in pain. So you don't want your loved one to always scream in pain when they're at home. Yet we can actually do a whole medical assessment, general medical assessment. We monitor their vitals. We get to know what could be the cause. Sometimes it is because of aging, and we can always score them. They'll have different scoring systems, and then choose which type of painkillers according to the analgesic ladder we could give them. And then also sleep disorders. Because of old age, we have increased daytime awakening and reduced sleep time generally. These people spend most of their night actually when they are awake because of the different changes in the body's system. So it could be a sign of something, even a mental illness. Actually, mental health is something that is also usually underdiagnosed, especially depression in the elderly. So we want to advise, if someone starts having those mood swings, cognitive changes, I will ask basic questions like, in the last 1 month, have you felt a feeling of unworthiness, or even the caretakers, because sometimes the caretakers can actually observe these changes. Then also urinary incontinence. Urinary incontinence means someone cannot control their urine flow, or even sometimes fecal incontinence with the elderly. And because of the different challenges, psychological challenges that come with taking care of such a people, we think it's important for you to have a trained person. We have trained nurses, bedside nurses whom we work with, who can adequately take care of such elders. And then also very important is the aspect of, I've talked about pain, but also these adults, these elderly, are also going to come and complain changing eating behaviors. Some of them are actually malnourished because of anorexia, something called anorexia, which is actually an eating disorder. So you want to assess them and understand what could be the cause. Sometimes it's because of the change in the body mass and also the strength, the muscle strength, because you're decreasing the functionality of the body that they don't want to eat. That's why we have a dietitian on board who can encourage them to strictly adhere to a particular diet that is relevant to their body health. So every patient is taken as an individual and as in a wholesome. Yeah, but my colleague can perhaps add on.
Talking about eating is also a very serious issue. You tend to notice that as they grow older, they tend to start eating less. And remember, we already have changes occurring in the body. Even the rate of absorption starts reducing. So we end up looking for food that we can easily optimize where they'll pick up some nutrients. The fact that also they're eating less nutritious food, they become even more vulnerable to more diseases. So we look at that idea of them coming to a home as a very big issue. They could also be having some bit of eating difficulties. Some may be having issues with chewing. And also, I've observed sometimes they are left to eat alone. Maybe you serve them earlier, they eat alone, and that is very, very disturbing to them. They would love to sit with their family, but some of you go ahead, you serve the food, you give maybe in their room, maybe you leave them in there, they eat, or maybe you serve them even early at 12, then you eat separately. That is also, it also affects the eating. And that really greatly affects their health.
They need a lot of love.
They need love, yes. Actually, at some point, they may even start trying to compete for attention with your children. They feel like you have totally ignored them, abandoned them. Yes.
Wow. Well, we're still talking about the elderly care and what the situation is in Uganda, something that is picking up slowly by slowly, like what you've heard from the doctors. We'll take a short commercial break and still continue with the conversation. Let's take a break.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
The Ministry of Health informs the public that there are confirmed cases of Ebola in Uganda. We, however, urge the public not to panic as the situation is being managed. The Ministry of Health further reminds the public to be on the lookout for any persons who may show signs and symptoms of Ebola. These include high body temperature, abdominal pains, diarrhea, vomiting, bleeding from the body openings such as the nose, eyes, and mouth. Please inform the nearest health worker immediately if you see anyone with these signs and symptoms. To prevent Ebola from spreading further, please take the following preventive measures: regular washing of hands with water and soap, avoid handshaking and hugging, avoiding any contact with any suspected Ebola patients. Any person who dies suddenly should not be buried but reported to the nearest health worker or LC1 immediately. For further information, please call the Ministry of Health toll-free number on 0800 100 066 or send a free SMS to your report on 8500. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and World Health Organization.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and the ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show, because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed, and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions, plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
You're still watching Good Morning Uganda Extra with me, Sharon Chomdisha, Dr. Asasir Ignatius, and Dr. Mwesigo Gideon, a physiotherapist at Jolly Stroke Center and Elderly Home Care Awareness. Now, one of the other things that you actually do is also that you help with people who have suffered from strokes. And one of the reasons actually as to why the home was even founded in the same place, that the person who founded it had a parent who suffered from a stroke. Yes, please tell us a little bit more about that. Does that come with old age as well, or it's sort of also a separate sort of dimension when it comes to palliative care?
Well, a stroke in its identity can happen even to younger people, but old age is one of the non-modifiable risk factors. We have what you call risk factors, things that can predispose you to getting a stroke, and an age above 60 years is something that is really put you at a very big risk.
You actually have people now suffering from strokes even in their 40s.
Yes.
Which is quite, it's not interesting, but it's very disturbing.
It's actually disturbing. When you come to the neurology ward in Molago, I used to rotate. It was one of my favorite wards when I was rotating as a medical student, because it really would struck my mind, why are young people, you get a 30-year-old getting a stroke, and you're like, what's happening? But one of the most common causes, if you see how a stroke develops, of course I don't want to go in the deep, detailed science, but just for you to understand, have a superficial mental picture of what you're talking about. A stroke develops when a blood flow to a certain part of the body, of the brain, has reduced or has been curtailed. So usually the body tries to correct that, and if the blood flow is restored, then you're going to have the symptoms alleviate. And that one in medicine, you call it a transient ischemic attack. But if that blood flow is not restored adequately, or it's not restored at all, then you're going to have a permanent neurological brain damage. So there are different types of strokes, can either be hemorrhagic or ischemic, but irrespective of the cause.
What causes the blood to stop flowing in the right place?
In the right place. So those now comes back to the risk factors. For example, there are what you call emboli, which are more or less like clots in cuts. A clot from, let's say, if you have like a heart disease, you can get a cardiac emboli into one of the blood vessels in the brain. And if it clogs in the middle of the blood vessel, that means blood flow in that vessel is going to be obliterated. In that case, the brain cells are going to be cut off from oxygen. They will get hypoxic. And when they don't have energy, they're going to I don't want to.
Your parents did a great job at paying for medical.
But what I really want to pick out, especially with stroke, are the risk factors which we all need to look out for. And for easy remembrance, I'll classify them into the modifiable, which we can change, and the non-modifiable, which we can't change. Among the modifiable, and which are on the rise in our setting nowadays, one is high blood pressure, hypertension. Please make sure you routinely do your body screening, know your blood pressure is healthy for you. 2 is diabetes mellitus, which is sugar, like sugar diabetes. Those 2 usually walk hand in hand. 3 is...
which type?
There are different types depending on the age. We have type 1, type 2, we have adult onset, child onset. But irrespective of the age, diabetes is it's a chronic debilitating condition, so it will gradually put you at a risk of developing these changes in the blood vessel wall. It changes the architecture of the blood vessel wall and puts you at a higher risk. Then, very important, obesity. Charlotte, make sure you keep in good shape.
Yes, sir.
Work out, please, because obesity comes with a high input of deposition of the bad fats under the skin and also on organs, the triglycerides, and once these deposit in the blood vessel, they can also form a clot, which will obliterate the other blood flow. Then also things like...
know that there would be, because some people think it's just a matter of gaining weight. But
no, it's not just a matter of gaining weight.
Height versus
weight. It's something very important, thank you. Something called a body mass index. So we see your height in relation to your weight, and we have normal cutoff ranges. That's why you need to come to Julie. Because those are some of the basic things we are going to do for you. Even before you get a stroke, but don't wait for you to first get a stroke.
Yes.
Or your elderly mother or father. Bring them and we're able to screen them ahead of time. Then among the non-modifiable, I already talked about age. Then male gender. The men, you're at a higher risk of getting stroke than your female counterparts.
Is it because they're more stressed out with life or what?
Stress, perhaps.
Okay.
But there is a bigger science behind that. And also, of course, family history. If like someone in their family, among the first degree relatives, there is someone who has had a stroke, or even having had a stroke previously, and you recovered, because you can actually recover from a stroke.
Okay. Yes, I've seen people.
Yes, because we have different types of stroke, depending on the extent of the neurological deficit or damage. So having suffered a stroke previously puts your brain at a higher risk of getting another stroke. So those are some of the risk factors. Of course, there are a number of them, but those are some of the common. If you are able to change the modifiable risk factors, please, and one of the primary things I would keep talking about, if you follow me on social media, I'm sure you've seen me talk about exercising. Of course, I have different exercises depending on the blood group and the genotype, but at least baseline, if you can do a workout, baseline. Because it keeps you fit, it keeps your body in good shape, it helps you eliminate the excess fat out of the body, you sweat, you pass out all these excess salts, and for those who are diabetic, a strict glucose control will really, really help the diabetics and for them to stay on their drugs as well. Yeah, so stroke is really something we are passionate about because, I mean, it gave birth to the center. But even more than just giving birth to the center, we believe there is a high growth rate of these non-communicable diseases in our country. People are taking, for example, heart diseases, kidney diseases, you know, chronic kidney disease, acute kidney injury, hypertension, diabetes, I already mentioned those, stroke, oh my God, all over the place. So we need to take care of our health. And the good thing with these non-communicable diseases, you don't get it from me, Shalon. I can't get it from Gideon. It's lifestyle. The food you eat, the quality of life you live is what is going to. It's not like Ebola, which you're going to get. Please don't worry. You're not going to get stroke from someone. No. Yeah, so that's why we are really passionate about stroke.
Okay. Yeah. Now, one of the other things, and Dr. Mwesiga highlighted, that for full recovery, the patient has a bigger role. One thing that I also know that is very important is that the love and the energy that you pick from the people around you plays a huge role in your understanding that, no, you're loved, you're valued,